Good evening, Miss Wolf and the rest of my classmates. I'll be giving a speech over the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Killer Bees era of Pittsburgh Steelers football, which spanned from about 2013 to the end of the 2017, 2018-ish seasons. I'm going to be talking about the team and the history of the team before 2013 and some of the historic eras of the franchise. And then I'll be talking about when the era started and what the team went through during the era. And then I'll be talking about the end of the era and the current day part of the Steelers. And while the name might be misleading, I'm not talking about Killer Bees. I'm talking about one of the strongest offensive trios in NFL history. Most people in our area are Bengals fans and would know how much the Steelers team antagonized them. And it was a long series of rivalries, lots of injuries, lots of just hard-fought games. I've been a fan of the Steelers before this era, and I would try to catch any games I could when I was younger. Prior to the era of the Killer Bees, the Steelers were already a very historic franchise, mainly known for their defense, which is really contrary to the Killer Bees, considering it was a very offensive-based trio. But the Steelers are mostly known for their defense. One of their eras of good defense being called the Steel Curtain. They were called the Steel Curtain because they had the best defense in the entire league. They were leading in all defensive stats. They were one of the best teams of all time. It was the 1971 team, and this featured players like Mean Joe Green, Dwight White, Ernie Holmes. This team was so good they won 4 Super Bowls in a row. Just a straight dynasty. The Steel Curtain didn't just end with this 1971 team. It would also be the nickname for other teams' defenses for the Steelers, including the 2008 team, which went on to win the Super Bowl against the Arizona Cardinals. This team had players like Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, all-time Hall of Fame players who were just extremely knocked out of the park defensive players. They also led the league in most defensive stats and are also considered one of the best defenses in the league and of all time. But getting into the actual era, the start of the Killer Bees era is sort of labeled as when Le'Veon Bell, star running back, was drafted in 2013. He was drafted in the second round of the draft. The key components to this team were franchise quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, who was drafted in 2004, and the star wideout receiver, Antonio Brown. He was also drafted in 2010 after the Super Bowl win. Big Ben, one of the best quarterbacks in the franchise's history, he ran the show for this team. And then Antonio Brown was labeled later on as he was a steal of the draft. He was drafted in the 6th round. He wasn't very good in college. He wasn't very highly known, but he broke out as one of the best receivers in the league on the Steelers. Together, these three, they formed one of the strongest offensive trios in the league, but they had no real success on the field. From 2013 to 2017, they only won 3 playoff games. They didn't even make the playoffs from 2013 to 2015. They won 1 game in 2016, won 2 games in 2017, and later lost in the AFC Championship to Tom Brady and the Patriots, who were also a powerhouse. And this era would very unfortunately come to an end after the 2017 season. Le'Veon Bell was up for a contract off his rookie deal, and he would refuse to sign with the Steelers that season and would not play. He would then sign with the Jets, and then have a few stints on a few other teams like the Chiefs, and that would basically end his career. He wouldn't really get back to the level he was on the Steelers. For Antonio Brown, he would be the cover star of the EA Madden NFL 2018. He was one of the best receivers in the league, but then he got struck by the Madden curse, which is considered something that happens to players who are the star player, the cover of the game, and they are known for season-ending injuries the year they are the cover athlete or anything like that. Maybe they got hurt, or maybe they retired, or just had a bad season. Antonio Brown was hit extremely hard by this curse. He would go on to have a very, very dramatic season. He would become a diva, sort of a locker room cancer to say, and he would bring toxicity around the team. He would refuse to play for the team, got traded to the Raiders, refused to play for them because of his helmet. He would then be traded to the Patriots, where he would only play in one game, and then he'd be cut. And then he would later play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, winning the Super Bowl, and then the next season, leaving a game mid-game, and he would then retire. He also had a lot of mental issues after this season. He would go on to do a lot of things that got him in the news for just very vulgar things. Went to jail, I think. A very unfortunate end. And for Big Ben, the quarterback, the leader of the team, he really would not come back to form after the Killer Bees era. He would suffer a lot of injuries. He'd get a lot older, and he would just struggle. By the end of the 2022 season, he would retire, leading the way for the current day Steelers, led by Kenny Pickett and now led by Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. This team, they currently have 2 losses, I think, and they are really, really good right now. They're really killing the game a little bit. But in summary, the Killer Bees era of Steelers football was one of the strongest offensive teams of all time. They had no real weakness on the offensive end of the field, but they had no real success on the field. They didn't win any playoff games. They barely won any playoff games. They didn't win a Super Bowl. They struggled. They just came at the bad matchups. Thank you for listening to my speech. I know this is late. I know this is a very late evening, but I hope that you have a great evening, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you.